This episode of Underground Reggie is brought to you by the IamMen.com. Music, sports, and entertainment news from IamMen Media. Follow the IamMen on Instagram at IamMen.media. Kanye West and R. Kelly are two of music's biggest producers. However, their impact on pop culture continues to separate the two and have adverse effects on both of their careers. As polarizing figures, both music producers are highly praised amongst the African American community. The only difference is that one producer seems to be able to get away with more harmful acts than the other. Neither musician should be able to freely dabble in malicious behavior, but they both should be held to the same standard. The problem is that standard isn't being applied across the board, and now it's forcing a new question to be asked. How much damage does a celebrity have to do before being reprimanded for their actions? We examine it all on today's episode of Underground Reggie. Today is Monday, October 21st, 2019, and I'm your host, Rico Banks. This is Underground Reggie. Both of these music producers will look identical if you close your eyes and compare them. R. Kelly's I Believe I Could Fly easily holds the same weight as Kanye West's Heard 'Em Say, and R. Kelly's The World's Greatest can easily be replaced by Kanye West's Good Life. Musically, they are similar, as both producers have topped record charts and been nominated for a multitude of awards. They even both hail from the same city of Chicago. However, there is one major difference between the two, and it's a noticeable one. The African American community embraces and uplifts R. Kelly more than they do Kanye West. But why is that? On paper, one would think that Kanye West shouldn't have anything to prove to the African American community. He's well educated, the son of a former activist and a college professor, a rap star, and has even produced songs on classic Jay-Z albums. All the boxes are checked, but the community still has a love-hate relationship with him. R. Kelly, on the other hand, has been an R&B mainstay for most of his career, consistently providing hit music for the nightclubs and radio stations. Like West, he also has recorded a joint album with Jay-Z. The African-American community loves R. Kelly more than they do Kanye West. But why is that? The answer to the question is simple, but its effects are more harmful. Most of the African-American community sees more of themselves in R. Kelly than they do Kanye West. R. Kelly is the guy who grew up in the neighborhood. He's the music producer who wasn't supposed to become a music superstar. He has that inner-city swagger and bravado. He carries a confidence with him that can only be obtained by growing up in an urban environment. Kanye, on the other hand, is what most deem to be a child prodigy. Most people see him as being someone who grew up in a nice home. The future music megastar has been working on his musical craft since a young age. He's fluent in multiple languages and even attended art school before later dropping out to pursue his music career. Most African Americans don't believe they could be Kanye West, but do believe they could be the next R. Kelly. However, being the next R. Kelly can result in a big problem, and we'll tell you why next on Underground Reggie. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Last year, Kanye West caused controversy with his opinions on slavery. The African American community haven't taken the comments lightly and are attempting to rid themselves of the famed music producer. Some individuals remained open-minded, but most don't have the tolerance to hear him out. West has been attempting to regain his fan base with his Sunday services, but that hasn't helped him much either. During a sit-down with TMZ Live, Kanye West would state that slavery was a choice. He later cleared up the comments, but the African-American community didn't care to accept the apology. Many see the claims as being a form of blasphemy and no longer care for the famed entertainer. West is set to release a new album, Jesus is King, and is reportedly cleaning up his music act. West's opinion on slavery wasn't the best, but to think his opinion on slavery is worse than the claims of sexual assault being levied against R. Kelly is ridiculous. These next opinions are my own, and I hate to say this, but R. Kelly is a sick dude. I watched Roxanne, a Netflix film about the life of rapper Roxanne Shante, and R. Kelly reminds me of the character Cross. To R. Kelly's defense, he has spoken about how he endured child molestation at a young age. That's an unreasonable experience for anybody to endure, but as an adult, you have to get some control over your life. R. Kelly has made news over much of the past 20 years for many disheartening reasons involving women, including the time he was accused of having sex with and potentially urinating on a minor. Honestly, R. Kelly is a great musician, but the madness of his personal life is unbearable to read at times. In recent years, one of the alleged victims said she vomited after she was forced by the singer to have sex with some of his other girlfriends, or pets as he's calling them. I can't make these things up, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it on this one. Former Dallas-based DJ Kitty Jones said this in one of her interviews with Rolling Stone magazine. She offered more details about her relationship with R. Kelly, and it all sound like things most people would face serious repercussions for. You know the old saying, you're innocent until proven guilty, but it's looking more like a saying than reality to me daily. For years, women have been coming forward claiming to be sexually assaulted by R. Kelly. Many people in the African-American community forgave R. Kelly after he was acquitted during his child pornography trial. The famed producer was accused of having sex with an underage woman and recording the lewd sexual acts. After his acquittal, R. Kelly continued to release hit records, but that hasn't stopped more women from coming forward. He has been accused of kidnapping a man's wife and taking her on tour with him, still was dating a woman twice his age, and has been accused of running a sex cult. R. Kelly is being accused of training women as young as 14 and 16 years old to become his sex puppets. Claims state that R. Kelly kept the women in his many homes throughout the country and mentally abused some while physically abusing others. The allegations were so bad that the BBC did a documentary in an attempt to find answers. The documentary was done because no criminal charges had been made against a person who seems to be a habitual offender of criminal offenses. Why was that? And why wasn't the community rallying against R. Kelly in the same fashion as they did Kanye West? These were questions that needed to be answered by a community that claims to love their own and would speak up against any other community if they feel like they are wrong. Why was R. Kelly so special, but Kanye West was expendable? Why would one hoard a sexual predator while throwing away a critical thinker? These questions eventually led to Lifetime doing their Surviving R. Kelly documentary, a film that led to the singer's arrest. The questions were valid and needed to be addressed if we ever wanted to truly progress, and they were. In reality, Kanye West isn't a bad person, but his comments were controversial. R. Kelly's actions seemed to be the polar opposite of his words, but he was being praised as a god at his times. Ironically, there's a similarity him and West both seem to share. Only time will tell what will happen next in Kanye's career, but one thing we do know is his next album will definitely contain clues. Thanks for listening to another episode of Underground Reggie. I'm your host, Rico Banks. Make sure you follow the I Am In on Instagram at IamIn.media. We'll be back for another episode soon. Stay tuned.